Hi guys, and welcome back to my videos. Paolo here. So the the, the the little different items I want to show you today, I started this series of explainer videos to talk a little about what I'm doing, because sometimes it's not possible to have just the production of the models, and it would be nice also to for me to talk a little about what I'm doing and how I do it, and the subject of today is something a little unusual because this is figures, figures we don't have so many in car modeling and in truck modeling also, and so this is very interesting because sometimes it's very, very important to have a little human figure near to your models and so on. And I usually keep the human figure beside models when I scratch build items to give the idea of the proportion of the stuff, So if you, for example, build up a plane that is huge in reality and you need to show how huge it was, it is absolutely useful to place a little figure in the same scale of the plane so people can understand and recognize which was the dimension of the real object in reality, even more when they are so unusual stuff that it's uncommon to see, I mean, if you take an F-16 or something like that, or an F-15, that more or less you're around 10 meters, 12 meters, something like that. But if you take something that don't exist any longer and there is just few pictures, it's always interesting to give a proportion about what you are building up. So the subject that I introduced to you today, it's two resin figures. I think they are from modelers originally, and it is something charismatic for the subject that I build. So for example, coming closer to the camera, if you can see that, this is the old Enzo Ferrari in his typical position, and it is painted with oil and acrylic paints, mostly Vallejo paints and Winsor & Newton oil cream, that color oil that it's so oily and so good in quality to expand the color. It's a mixed technique in painting, and I try to reproduce the usage and the colors that all the Ferrari had. We are used to see the old fellow from Ferrari in the last part of his life, so when he always was carrying that black sunglasses and looking quite skeptical whatever object he had in front, despite they were dream cars or winning race cars. He was always looking, maybe yes, maybe not, typical kind of mafioso face and so on. In American movies, the Italians are always mafiosi, so he have to look like a real mafioso, like a real godfather. And the figure itself, I think it have been made by modelers, I guess, around the early 90s or late 80s, because the cast is not so precisely well done like they do today. Today they are really able to copy the faces of actors and so on. I have somewhere the head of Schwarzenegger somewhere that is probably made in 3D, and it's absolutely him, so you really recognize the fellows. Instead here you have to apply some tricks to make the fellow look more similar than what it is from the cast. The colors of Ferrari didn't mostly was taken in this kind of jacka clothes, typical gray clothes of an old man, but it's cute to have him beside some Ferrari racers and looking at them. That's why I didn't apply a proper base under him. Usually figures, to avoid to touch them in this way, this is dry since many years now, so should be no problem, but it's always better to have a proper base so the people that want to see the object touch the base and don't touch the figure. That's why they have so tall base under the figures usually. While the second one is something that is probably much more famous around, and it's of the same series of the previous Ferrari, but this is ayrton. And Ayrton Senna was a very, very nice position casting, It's a strange item because they made it in 1/24 scale, despite usually the people that have a collection of Formula 1 have 120 scale, not 24. So probably this was the reason why I didn't sold it at the time and remains in my shop stock. And I decided to paint it in the same way, so with a mixed technique of oil and acrylics also here, trying to work a little more over the red surface to keep the suit of the pilot a little more realistic, And it was very nice because they also provide a very well done, I think, printed by cartograph decal sheet about all the sponsors that Ayrton had. This should be the suite that he had when he was driving the McLaren, and with the typical Nacional sponsor on his stomach, and the same on his back, and the typical helmet. In the helmet I just had even if they give a dime inside the box, I just added the little details on the helmet, a little cable on the side of the helmet to make it look similar to the picture that we seen about Ayrton fixing his helmet and ready to do the performance, you know. So it's a very, very nice and lovely figure. I mean, now the problem is that of course you don't have something like a McLaren, a Formula 1 in 124, but I can maybe try to use it for some prototypes and so on, or just, and that is also the reason why I didn't place a base, just a figure by himself to stay around the car, because it's anyway, it's a very charismatic subject, and he also gives the proportion to everything that I have between trucks and between cars. So they are absolutely lovely. Of this one I made some few copies, mostly for my personal purpose, because in the same series they provide the same casting for with decal to finish, like an Alan Prost, I think Gerhard Berger, and Nigel Mansell. Probably the one that you should not use so well, it is exactly Nigel Mansell, because it was a huge man, so it was much bigger and taller, so the proportion is a little different. But about Nigel, they made a very nice cast, so that taken surely from a picture of Nigel Mansell working with the helmet in the head and the helmet in the hands, and the head is absolutely well done and well detailed, and probably in the future I also will paint that. But also that figure is in 1/24 scale, so you need, if you want to make a diorama with that, you need something that is in the same scale of the figure. And that's it, you know. I think they are incredibly well done, and they really give the idea and the proportion of people looking at cars in 1/24 scale. Ferrari always skeptical, you know, can also be Ferrari looking at Team skeptical. We know the story when he wanted, in the same area probably, of that suite of Ayrton, and when he wanted Ayrton to drive for Ferrari. So should be a what if, and dream on, you know. Thanks for watching, guys, and see you in the next.